another one over.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. Robin.
Sorry.
Present.
Vaughn.
Here.
Bell is on his way. Smith Charles.
Present.
Whitebird.
Oh, he's on.
I'm here.
Hoffman.
Present.
Markham. Here. You have quorum.
Great, thank you.
Let's all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up, we have approval of the previous minutes. I need a motion. Commissioner Long, supported by Commissioner Smith Charles. All in favor of approving the previous minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, the minutes are approved. Next up, we have the approval of today's agenda. Take a motion, Commissioner Rahman, supported by Commissioner Smith Charles. Any additions, deletions, changes to the agenda? Seeing none, let's have all in favor of approving today's agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Agenda's approved. Next, we have our public comment. This is the first of two. If there's anybody here who wishes to address this committee in public comment, please come to the end of the table. There's nobody online. Seeing no one, I will close public comment and we will move item 7, communications. We have item 7A, the delinquent tax revolving fund report, second quarter 2024, and item B, the investment report, second quarter 2024. I need a motion to receive and file.
I'll move A and B to receive and file.
Okay. All right. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, let's prompt the vote. Oh, that's right, we did. I'm sorry, Todd, about the thumbs up.
Oh. We'll start over.
He caught it.
Sorry, my screen's just scrolling here. There it is. Stand by.
There you go. Came up.
You have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, communications are filed. Okay, that moves us to item number 8, department recommendations. Item 8A is the extension with Unity Fiber 2020 LLC for fiber maintenance. And I see we have our IT folks with us this morning. Moved by Commissioner Whitebird, supported by Commissioner Smith Charles.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. It's good to see everyone again for our monthly meeting. So, Mr. Logan, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the board.
Hi, Monty Logan. I'm responsible for infrastructure services within IT at the county.
Monty will step us through a little bit about what this is. It goes back to the OakNet. So I think that we've had a presentation from Joe LaRussa. He's working on the phase 2 of the study to see the feasibility of maybe doing something with that. But almost regardless of that outcome, we still need to have the fibers. So this is, we're basically asking for, I think, an up to 5-year extension that may change depending on the results of the 2-year study and what kind of negotiations that we need to go in with them. It might, maybe it'll be a 2-year thing if it looks like it's feasible to take a different path with the fiber. But the alternatives to this is we'd have to bid it. Likely it would be the bigger players like an AT&T. The pricing, we'd have to get the quotes, but it would be substantially more. I think we're paying about $100,000 a year for maintenance of the fiber right now, and it easily would be probably more than 10x. But we don't have the numbers for that. So anyway, I'll let Monty kind of dive through a little bit deeper.
Yeah, okay. And just to build on what Ryan said, so we've referred to it, if you heard of the thing they call it OakNet, okay? So, and really we have, the county owns within a large cable, fiber optic cable, the county, we own a number of strands inside the overall cable. So what we're asking for is the vendor, the supplier that we work with, they actually own the cable and they also own the maintenance agreement that we have. So to keep things simple, right, in the event of an emergency or instead of introducing another third party to support and manage our strands, right, that we want to continue to move forward with that particular vendor that manages, and that vendor's called Unity, right, to move forward with that particular vendor to continue to support maintenance of the cable. So, and just by way of the size and scale, we have over 298 miles of fiber spread across the county, right, with various connections connecting our village townships and cities. Okay, so we have a wide number of connections across the county. So the goal is to really move forward, continue to move forward with that particular vendor that will eliminate handoffs. So in the event that there was an issue, we needed maintenance, introducing another third party to provide that support and maintenance. So that's really what the county's kind of what we're looking to move forward with, right? Our agreement currently ends at the end of this year. And the goal is to actually renew that agreement for another 5 years with the option to renew and to make it 10. Now, the lifespan of that particular asset has now been rated for about 20 years. So we still have another 20 years of useful life on that particular cable. So the goal is to, just asking the board right now to approve moving forward with the extension of 5 years with another option for another 5 years down the road. So that will help us be able to continue to deliver the service.
Subject to the results of the study.
Okay, I'll open it up to the commission. Anybody have any comments or questions? Commissioner Smith Charles?
With regards to fiber, is the county all fiber at this point in time?
We are not all fiber.
I mean, the county government proper.
The county government, we still have sites or facilities that actually we use like AT&T lease lines. So we use other methods of connecting some of our locations to our network. So we have I'll call it the backbone of our environment is fiber. However, we have other circuits that we use from other suppliers, right, that are not using the OakNet fiber.
Okay, and health department down in Southfield, Parks and Rec over here in Waterford. I get the impression they're on a different system. Is it, hopefully this is germane to fiber, but would they also have fiber capabilities at this juncture?
Our large county buildings are connected by a fiber.
Okay.
So depending on, I'll call it maybe a spin-off site or a location, some may not have the fiber, but to the extent our large campus, on the campus we're fiber, and some of the other larger facilities we are connected by fiber.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and just as a number, we have 70 sites. So across,
70.
we have 70 sites connected to the OakNet fiber.
Okay.
Commissioner Rowan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ron, I appreciate your comment too about, maybe doing 10X if we went with another vendor. Have we done a study or have we done an evaluation at any point? I mean, I appreciate the data and obviously nobody's interested in paying 10X. But do we know what else is out there in terms of other providers, what they're able and willing to do, what the true cost would be, or are we just sort of guesstimating it? or-
I would say it's a guesstimate based on what we're paying for some similar fiber circuits through AT&T and then just expanding it. Now, obviously, it's not the quote isn't super accurate because we don't have a quote, so there's
Sure.
volume discounts and that sort of thing. So I don't have a hard number for you, but I mean, we tossed around, what was it, like 3?
3.5.
Yeah, internally,
Okay,
3.5. So
okay, so we're pretty happy with this quote where it's at in terms of
I think
price
that
point.
the 100,000 is cheap. Now, a lot of that is because we've, you spent a lot of capital up front to put the fiber in the
Yeah,
ground
right.
20 years ago. So,
Right.
you're still harvesting some of the savings from that.
Okay, and overall, in terms of level of service, we're pretty happy with
Yes.
the vendor, they're doing a good job.
Yeah, and the vendor's responsive, and one of the benefits is we're able to actually get to the root cause pretty quickly. If we introduced another service provider in the mix, we'd now have another stop.
Start
So,
from scratch, yeah.
and then we have to
Yeah.
kind of, and if we have an outage, trying to triage it, I now, instead of getting to the guy that's actually hands on the fiber, I gotta go through another third party to do that, so.
Makes sense. Okay.
Now, in fairness, the vendor, it has changed hands a few times. So it's been sold. I think there were some solvency issues with the previous. So this might be the second or third incarnation of the owner of the fiber. It's a little bit out of our hands as to what might happen longer term. That could happen again. So that's just something to keep in mind that we are carrying some amount of risk on the supplier side.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner Whitebird?
You said it's been in 20 years, it has 20 additional years of useful life?
20 more. That's based on the study, they did a brief study, and they said the useful life is now another 20 years.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. And I would like to note that Commissioner Cavell has arrived. Okay, anybody else have any questions?
He's in the house.
He's in the house.
Okay, if nobody else has any more questions or comments for these folks, let's prompt the
Go
vote.
back to the share screen, watch, it won't come up now because I was investigating stuff. I think we need to look on stuff, it doesn't come up. Yeah, see.
Lon?
Yes,
Yes.
it's when I research stuff on my iPad, it goes away.
Markham?
Yes.
I'll hit
Cavell?
Yes.
Ramen?
Yes.
refresh
Yeah,
when she's
8
done.
yeas, 0 nays.
Okay,
Now hit your refresh.
motion
and it should
carries,
work.
item is approved.
Wait till she's
Thank
done.
you.
Nice.
Next up, we have item 8B, the authorization of the 2024 county tax levies for general operating, parks and rec, and public transportation.
This is right.
Moved by Commissioner Smith Charles, supported by Commissioner Cavell. This is how we get all our money to do what we do.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
How is everybody today? Cheryl Johnson, Deputy CFO. I am going to turn it right over to my equalization experts. They can walk you through what we're asking for, but as Commissioner Markham said, this is the money. How we calculate it anyway.
Michael Lohmeyer, Equalization Officer, Oakland County Equalization Department, and with me is one of my colleagues, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Shannon Moore, Tax Standards and Equalization.
3, 4.
A 4029 expert extraordinaire.
Come on.
So before you do have the 4029 and you receive this every year from us. It does have the operating millage rates, the park and rec, and public transportation in there. Columnized as you've seen it before. We do have, when it was originally put in there for the date of elections, you've got the original millage rates that are authorized. We do have the Headley millage reduction fractions that are provided, which based on the consumer price index last year, it wasn't levied because we didn't have as much. But we do have it this year because we had a lower CPI this year. So it is reduced. So I stand here to answer any questions that you might have. But this is our standard report that's provided every year. So if you have any questions.
Commissioner White.
Wasn't last year, I think,
Last year,
the first year in a long time, we had to roll back because of the, or didn't have to roll back
last year was the first time, I think,
in a long time because there wasn't the inflation factor in the
I
CPI.
can't remember the last time we had one,
Might have been 10 or 20 years maybe.
3.9 still.
at least a couple decades.
But now this one, we're rolling back to 3.96, whatever.
Yeah, except for individual taxing authorities. We had some, if you go back to our apportionment report last fall, we had some individual taxing authorities. But as far as overall rates for the communities themselves, they were predominantly all at 1.0. But we did have some individual taxing authorities that had millage reductions.
Commissioner Smith Charles?
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to ask you, when I look at this county revised tax rate form, all of the work and you know, she said you were like the tax whisperer or something. Do you guys in some way discuss this with like the economic development folks? And the reason I ask is because we have that Outlook luncheon, and it always talks about you know, the things that we're dealing with. Even I would even venture as far as the state of the county. Are your metrics reflected in the health, like when they say the state of the county is strong? Are you involved at the table on that?
We are much more collaborative over the last couple of years, I think, than in prior years. We bring a lot of our team members, Shannon and Cheryl, we are much more collaborative in the last couple of years through our quarterly assessor meetings, through e-news releases, and through other monthly reports that we actually send out to the local community leaderships, not just to the communities we have contracts with, but also our sister communities than we were in the past. So these kind of reports, even the Oakland County Outlook monthly report. We sent that out to all the communities, to the other assessors, economic development directors that we have emails to, much more collaborative so that they also have this information. We send it out to people that we have with the school authorities. We're trying to get that information out to everybody so they have it for their budget process. We try to encourage much more future planning, not just one-year budgets, but 3, 5-year budget planning. We have a much more proactive planning than we ever did in the past, and much more collaborative best practice thinking. So we involve a lot of communities. For example, next week we're gonna be doing ethics training. We've invited all the different communities leaders to come in and do that with us here, free of charge, to be a part of that process. So we bring these kind of things to their attention and get them involved with us so that we can use their mindsets, because I'm not the smartest person, that's why I bring her with me. You know, and that's why I talk to her constantly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we share this with everybody.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Cabell.
I just wanna highlight that when we do look at the 4029 form that Oakland County residents passed in 1978, an operating millage for Oakland County government at 5.26% or 5.26 mils, and we're at going to, it looks like 3.95. And if we all recall back from when Kyle Jen was here, we'd do that nice PowerPoint. Hopefully Brian will do a similar type of thing just to prime us for budget season. One of the first PowerPoints was the loss of county operating money through the Great Recession, where from, 2012 until 2022 was when we got back to the same amount of dollars, not pegged to like inflation or cost of goods. So it's a lost decade for county operating. And then second, he would show a PowerPoint that would then say, hey, if it was at 5.2 or if we didn't roll back with the Headley, we'd have like $100 million more dollars in our general operating budget. So all the arguments we're going to have for budget season would be a lot easier to have. Just want to recognize that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Well, seeing no other comments or questions, everybody, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
Did you refresh too early?
Must be something I said.
Did you refresh?
You gotta refresh after the vote is in.
Oh, yeah.
I
did
might
that.
find
Nice.
it back
Go you.
from the past.
Charles?
Whatever.
Say, this over, and you didn't realize you were doing it.
Did you, where did you hear this?
Now I refresh after she's done,
Okay.
then it works.
So motion carries.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item 8C, the fiscal year 2024 second quarter financial forecast.
I guess it depends on what you want.
Yeah, that's right there. I just.
Now, okay, now.
Oh, that does make me kind of bad.
That's okay. We're all working on ourselves.
Commissioner Wiper, and I need a
I'll move.
Commissioner Smith
support.
Charles. Yeah. All right, this is the fiscal year 2024 second quarter financial forecast. Welcome.
Hi again,
Hi.
Hi.
still Cheryl, still the deputy CFO, right?
For the time being.
We'll let you know after this item.
No pressure, yeah, no pressure. So this is our second quarter forecast. It is the forecast through March of '24 of our county operations. I'm gonna turn it over to Kim Coy, who is our Chief of Budget and Grants, and she's gonna walk you through.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm here to review the second quarter forecast with you. For anyone who's not familiar out there, I like to do a brief overview of what's contained in the various parts. So normally I like to start out with the department summary that contains the main content of the forecast. So what that is, it is our general fund revenue summary, and that is detailed by ledger account or revenue category. And then we also have our expenditure summary, which is our expenditure summaries by department. So then after that, I usually like to go over the new revenue forecast. There's a few pages with detail. So those have our general fund revenues, and those are by ledger account or category, and totals by department. And I think everyone's getting used to seeing, we have our department quarterlies. Those are gonna be your colorful documents. They're one-page summaries. They have the detail in your personnel, your operating, internal services, and transfer. So if you're looking for more detail, there's the place to go. And then also after that, we have our proprietary forecasts. And then other areas that are within the packet, we have our budget amendments. We have after that our donations and our write-offs. So just a brief review of that. We always look forward to presenting this. Not only are we required to by law, but it's an opportunity to give you information and the public how the county is projecting. So I'm just going to go over the beginning, and that is our transmittal. So right now in second quarter, our general fund revenues, they're forecasted to be 1.4 million lower than the revenue amounts included in our budget. So this is gonna be the net result of lower forecasted revenues in primarily two areas. Well, a few more, but some amounts are greater than others. So mainly our charges for services, we're forecasting $3.4 million lower. This is primarily concentrated in the district court. That is similar to what we were seeing in our first quarter. And this is the result of lower caseloads, and this is where our financial charges are assessed. And this is also impacted by the state law changes. We've got smaller amounts forecasted in our other intergovernmental revenues. And then also 1.9 million higher revenues, which is good, across a number of other revenue categories. For example, we have taxes, federal grants, investments, and a combination of other categories forecasted over by small amounts. So this is the main highlight of our general fund. Oh,
What is it okay if I ask a question, or do you wanna wait till the end?
Let her run through this part and then I'll
Here, Mike.
call on you.
okay. So for now, these are our main highlights of our general fund revenue forecast. So I'm gonna go down to our expenditure forecast. So right now, in totality, our general fund expenditures are expected to be $15.1 million lower than the expenditure amounts we have in our amended budget. So a few things, essentially, in our total budgets, 15.1 million, it's due to combination of personnel, vacancies, turnover, and then lower than budgeted operating costs. So right now, we do have to note two departments, they're forecasted to exceed their appropriated amounts. So right now, we do have the sheriff, they're forecasted to exceed the budget by 3.3 million. And this is the net result of their personnel costs being forecasted to exceed the budget by 4.5 million. So this is similar to what we've seen the previous quarter. And we have our overtime costs, we have hospital watch, officers in the academy and training, and there's some other factors, but if the trends continue, per the General Appropriation Act, a budget amendment will be required at the year end to cover the final spending amounts. Then we also have Water Resources Department. They're forecasted to exceed their budget by approximately 89,000. They have some higher than anticipated expenses in contractual and professional services. However, they are proposing a second quarter amendment, and that is going to adjust for their increase in soil erosion fee revenues. So we also, the next part just discusses, some of the budget amendments that we're including in this resolution. That includes net neutral adjustments, resolutions adopted by the BOC. If there wasn't an amendment available at the time, it's in there, and other technical adjustments. And wrapping it up, we have our impact on planned use of fund balance, a second quarter. So right now, the amended budget, we're assuming 28.1 million in planned use. So the major contributing factors to this, it's your $7.7 million for the road programs. Those were included in the adopted budget at year end. And then we have our 19.8 million in carry forwards and encumbrances, which were included in the year end report. So in totality, we're anticipating the net impact on plan use to be 14.4 million less than what was assumed in the amended budget. There are other factors throughout the year that can impact this, that are adopted and that could impact fund balance. We will continue to keep you posted, and those factors will also be updated and accounted for when we do our third quarter forecast and also in our year-end report.
Okay, I'll stop you there and we'll take some questions. I'll start with Commissioner Cavell, followed by Commissioner Rahman and then Commissioner Smith-Jarvis.
Hey, so I have a couple of clarifying questions and then a question about the overtime. So first, to understand, when you say $1.9 million in higher revenue coming from grants and this sort of thing, when you mention that it's grants, is it that those are the funds that have the like admin fee that we can then use as general operating money? And that totals 1.9, or is it like we got $1 million grant and only 100,000 of that can be used for general operating?
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, I can clarify when you're done.
Okay. So this is just strictly reporting on the revenues right now that would be categorized as like federal revenue or state revenue.
Okay.
The biggest portion of that is through the marijuana tax. The marijuana that we get back, we were anticipating $1 million. It's been growing every year and it went from like 700,000 and when we just got it a month or so ago, it was like $2 million. So that's the at least $1.1 million of that increase, and that does go to the general fund.
Okay, cool, thanks. And then another clarifying question is, the total expenditure forecast to be $15.1 million lower than expenditure amounts in the budget. Does that mean we are coming in, just to make sure I understand that, we're coming in under budget and that's because of these things that you mentioned here of personnel vacancies and stuff? So people budgeted $100,000 for this staff person, but they did not hire that person, so then that's just in their budget but will not likely be spent.
Yes, that's one example
Okay,
of
cool.
a vacancy.
Got it, okay, thanks. So then same sort of thing then, if I understand the plan use of fund balance being 14.4 million less than maybe it's not because of staff vacancies or whatever, but it being less, just making sure, because when I read this at home last night, I was like, does that mean we're over? Or are we under? You're coming in under, right?
We are coming in under budget
Got it.
at the expenditure level, and so what that will do is that reduces our reliance on planned use.
Cool. Which is like the big goal, right?
Yes.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Okay, so now about the overtime budget for the sheriff's office. This feels like this comes up all the time. How long has this been an issue? Like I remember hearing about this like in 2021. Is this?
We've discussed it several times. It's one of those things that I'm working with the budget team to make an adjustment to. We do have a balanced budget, so we have to figure out at this point if we're gonna get those funds out of the sheriff's budget or if they're gonna come out of fund balance. Because we have to figure out where that $3 million right now comes from. And actually the net is only 1.7 at this point because some of that is they have vacancies they don't fill, so they've got some favorability in personnel. And then they have, because they have vacancies they haven't filled or haven't been able to fill, they're using more overtime. So it's a delicate walk between the two, and I know that at the beginning of this fiscal year, they did hire a lot of people to try and offset some of that overtime. So we're just kind of looking at it over the trend of the year, but when we bring you the budget in July, it will have an addition to the overtime. Because there were some things that have been changed, they aren't changed in the quarterly, but going forward in the budget process, we will be addressing it.
So if I hear you right, you're saying the solution then to the overtime budget is in part staffing, making sure that gets up. But then if the last part you're saying is maybe just giving them more money for overtime.
Yeah, well, that's the solution, but if you look at the reason for it, part of the reason is we've made some changes in our benefits. You know, we offer parental leave, and a big majority of new hires in the sheriff's office are in the stage of their life to take benefit of that.
Mhm.
So at any given time, and I'm sure that the sheriff's department, Gaia, can tell you, I wanna say she said she's got 45 people off at any given time. So there's that change in policy is what we have to catch up to. And one of the things that, you know, going forward, Brian and I are really looking at when we make these changes in policy that look like there's not a lot of monetary impact on the front, there is a monetary impact on the back end in terms of overtime or filling staff and things like that. So we're trying to be more mindful of those things in the future and making sure that we're building that into the budget.
So then, if there's a person who's off for parental leave that is a patrol person for Rochester Hills, it sounds like we right now are trying to figure out whether to use the sheriff's budget or planned fund balance, which is something we don't want to do, to cover the gap created by Rochester Hills having a contract with us for that person. Meaning, so the question is, why doesn't Rochester Hills cover the overtime? Or is that part
Well,
of their
they
law
do.
enforcement contract?
They do.
Well, then why is there,
Well, so those are two different line items.
sure,
So you're gonna see an increase in revenue, in theory, in the charges for services for the sheriff's office, because they're gonna
Okay.
charge for that.
Yeah.
But then on the expense side, you're gonna see where we're actually paying those employees the benefits and things like that, and I think, you know, we've talked a bunch of times about right-sizing those contracts.
okay, but we haven't done that yet.
Well, the contracts, that's,
Next year.
I don't wanna say that because I don't know.
End of
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
They will be right.
2025, yeah,
So then-
2025.
Cause cause I get that maybe overtime, part of the sheriff's overtime issue is like, there's a corrections officer in the jail that does family leave, and it's like, that makes sense, we cover that. But if it's a Pontiac substation officer
Right.
or a Lake Orion Township, whatever the heck.
And it's a combination of that, and there's also, as we hire new officers, there is, my understanding is there's overtime when those officers are going to training.
Sure,
So whether they're being covered by someone who's in overtime while they're off at training.
sure.
So there, like I said, there's some right sizing that needs to be done with that, and it historically has not been done.
Yeah.
But that's what we're aiming for the budget coming up in '25.
Cool. Just to make sure then we all hear this too, because I hear you with like us having training. But again, if they're a road patrol person, that's not us.
Right, no, it's a combination
Okay.
of, it's a very large, there's a
Yeah.
lot of officers, you
Yeah,
know, and
there's 1,400 people in the sheriff's
Right.
office and over 700 of them are road patrol people in 12 contracted communities.
Right.
So then, yes, it makes sense we have overtime, but I'm excited to see what our new contracts look like at the end of the year, because then, you know, just using simple math, so forgive me if it's wrong, but like then half of this should go away perhaps, in my estimation, because it's a road patrol person in Brandon Township doing the training.
yeah, there should be an
that they-
offset
right.
in the, and
Yes,
there may
okay.
be one in here. Unfortunately, the way that we break out the revenues is by type of revenue, so everybody's charges for services, so you're gonna see the district court in there, you're gonna see the sheriff's office in there, you're gonna see you know, parks in there, anybody that charges for their services is all rolled up into that one number. But then when we look at the expenses, we look at them broken out by department, so it's really hard to say, okay, are we really, you know, $3 million in the hole with charges for services? Or are there other things going on and we could be $5 million in the hole, but there's an additional, you know, $2 million coming in for the services that are provided to communities? And that's what the individual departments are looking at as we're walking through the budget process. This is just a giant overview
Gotcha.
of general fund, general purpose.
Okay.
I hope
Thank
that
you.
clarifies.
Oh yeah, that helps a lot, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Rahman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate the favorability of the expenditures. The fact that we're 15.1 million underneath on expenditures is great. And if you actually back out the 3.3 million from Sheriff's Office, we're actually favorable about 18.4 million, give or take, right? Which is really pretty impressive. My question comes back, I think I asked the same question when we met, a quarter ago about this. I appreciate everything you said, the explanation with Sheriff's Office. How are we so far off base? I mean, did we not contemplate any of this a year ago when we did the budget?
I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because at the point last year when we were all working on the budget, I was working on the ACFR. So I don't know what the contemplation or the conversation was about it. So I'm not sure if Kim has any highlights or insight that she could add to that, but Kyle was kind of running that piece, and I apologize for being like, sorry, I don't know, but I have not been involved, and so as I'm going through and acclimating myself with the reports and the processes and the things that we're running up against, that especially things that we seem to have been running up against for, over and over and over again, I'm trying to, instead of just my saying is instead of just putting out the fire, I'm trying to find the person with the match. So I'm trying to figure out instead of just fixing this, why is it like this? And that's the process that we're in right now.
Well, I guess the silver lining is it's really one department. I know WRC is over to the tune of $90,000, which is nothing. And the fact that we have so many departments, I'm looking at Leanne sitting right here. I mean, if Leanne was over $3.5 million, I could imagine all the incredible things she'd do for her department. And it's not to minimize what our sheriff's office is doing.
Is that permission?
I don't wanna make light of it, because again, I know we've got our undersheriff and Gia here on the call, and I truly respect and appreciate everything they do, we value their service. I just have a hard time wrapping my head around this, because benefits aside, paternity leave aside, all those wonderful things, I run a business, right? And for me, it's hard for me to run my own personal business and have this kind of a deficit and scratch my head and said, well, we didn't know, we didn't see this coming, we didn't plan for it. I mean, to some extent as a county, we need to do better.
Absolutely.
And I know we've had the same conversation last quarter. Are we making any efforts to mitigate this? I know we're gonna meet for budget here in August, but what does third quarter look like? I mean, is that going to be more of the same, 3 months from now? Is it? Are we doing anything to right, to Charlie's point, I know we're gonna right size and get everything back on track eventually. But what are we doing right now to mitigate this?
What I can tell you is that, since Brian came on board, I've been allowed to really focus on the budget team and figure out where we're doing things that we're just continually doing the same thing and where we really need to do some more analysis and make some hard decisions. And so that's what I'm focusing on right now. I would like to sit here and tell you that, yeah, you'll see this cleaned up in third quarter because it's kind of how I operate, but we're trying to get there. I have specifically asked the question, what are we doing? Where is this coming from? How are we doing this? And so we're working through those responses. But Commissioner Rahman, you have my word. It'll be fixed by 25, it may be fixed by third quarter.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Commissioner Charles.
Yeah, my two colleagues pretty much were lined up with what I was thinking too. I think the only question that I was gonna ask, but I think you've answered it to the best of your ability is, does the executive and the sheriff talk about this? Like, do they actually have conversation from one countywide to another countywide? Maybe they have different lingo that they speak to one another. But it is not lost on me about overtime. I mean, I was just downstairs in the catacombs, compliments of Philip Weipert, and saw some of our wonderful deputies, who I said to them, we appreciate you, we value you, you mean a lot to this county. So I would hate to say that and then come to you and be like, cut their budget some or find money, don't give them the money. But I am when it comes to the wording for me, I closed my screen on that one, but it says, uh-oh.
Oh, now we just raised, no, you broke my screen. Find it here.
Summary, I think?
No, I think it's the
Looking
memo.
for the letter.
It's the memo,
Yeah,
right there.
where it says, and other factors. That's the part for me in, you know, non-professional settings where that could be anything. You know, people used to put professional services in the line item for, back on my school board days. So I wanna make sure that they know that they're supported and we want these folks to, because you don't want unhappy deputies in the community overworked and underpaid by any means. And so if perhaps there was a way to know a little bit more about what those other factors are, I think you said child leave and things like that, but you know, $3 million is a large number to have not correctly identified as a target. But go sheriff, go deputies, keep up the good work, and that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Woodward.
So, similar to Commissioner Smith-Charles, is I don't want to seem like piling on, but I mean, it's been talked around here, it's a priority. It's a priority from a board perspective, and so there has to be also some, I'm gonna speak about this as accepting responsibility of our role in this, that we approve a budget. And so if the budget's not capturing the things that need to be done, that rests on all of us. And so, I mean, working with fiscal services to address this. I'll speak to some of the other factors. Managing your staff, and the sheriff office has some unique parameters, just given the physical strain of the job, and it creates openings, but the budget, I mean, the operating of that budget has to reflect all those things. I will push back a little against the child leave stuff, and I think the recognition of younger people, I mean, taking advantage of some of those things. But this has been a problem my entire time on this board for 20 years. So giving benefits, I mean, frankly, without those benefits, I doubt we'd even have the young people working here, because I know the department has struggled to, find people, and I applaud all the efforts to reform hiring practices and try to fill those vacancies, because that helps ease off this. What's helpful for me from this process, because if we're bringing revenue and some other thing, this 3.3 million is like a number, but maybe it is offset by some of the favorability. And so in future, to be able to see, is the net overtime cost when you bring in the revenue that's coming in to offset that, is it closer to 1.5 million? Is it whatever? I mean, I think that helps kind of get a handle on what the magnitude of, the problem is. But I think it is, for me, I'd like to see, in the future, and this is, I think, more for the budgeting process, and I see the undersheriff and the team on, and we don't have to get into it now, how much of this overtime is disproportionately on the patrol side versus the jail side? And I think that also opens up some conversations, are we staffed at a level that we need to do? What is our leave? Is the overtime the result of people of, physical, short-term disability, injury, or whatever, and that's created as part of the job compared to other things? Is it that people are taking time off and therefore we need to fill it, and then maybe we just need more people on board? People talked about these contracts reflecting these full costs, which is, I am officially off every township's Christmas card list, because I'm it's important to say this is the cost of service. And we all got to figure out how to pay for the cost of service, because what I'm not willing to compromise.
You have your own police department.
Well, what I'm not willing to compromise is compensation, which I still frankly see as is going to continue to be a challenge to bring people not only into this profession, but to keep them in this profession. And we have to be able to look at that. And so it's a whole thing. But I'm glad to hear the conversation, everyone delving in there. The number is big here, and I know the sheriff's office is working, on it. I know the executive and the fiscal team. I think it's also behooves all of us to roll up our sleeves and get a very clear picture of what's happening, and make whatever appropriate changes is necessary to offset this. Because one, we will always do whatever's necessary to fully staff the services that we commit to, and manage the jail and to protect the community. So it's not. But we want an accurate number, and success is that the projected amount of money going in at the start is closely aligned to that, bar some massive other factor, but that can be enumerated, like this is the degree of contribution, so that's on that question. Was more comment, I think the questions, I mean came through. Actually, I think the other stuff is, out of the, from a revenue forecast, of additional revenue that came in, mentioned the marijuana stuff, I mean, so like generally just dumps into the, to the general fund, but what are the top 2 departments that are seeing higher than usual revenue?
So if you go to page 16, it will show you the areas that have higher
okay,
higher
I'll go.
revenues.
Perfect.
And that'll give you a little bit of insight, whether it's taxes or charges for services or things like that.
Got it, okay, perfect. And then the last thing, I'm just gonna flag this because this is going to become a increasingly larger conversation when we talk about revenue forecasts and the district courts. So almost to the dollar, the equivalent of the overtime, which I think it worked out that way. From my understanding, district courts across the entire system are losing revenue. I knew at one time that they paid for themselves, but frankly, more than paid for themselves. And so I would also just submit and put into like the budget pot, like looking at this. I know that I think there's some other revenues that come to help support district courts from the state. And I think you gotta look at its totality. But this is not likely to change. Like this is the trend, and the cost of operating our courts, and we have the 4, but it's gonna become an increasing, district courts are gonna become an increasing larger burden on our local communities, and we're gonna have to have a big conversation in how we're going to address this, because this is the beginning, and the projection, and I've talked to some others, will grow in time, and so that will force a larger draw on general fund, and then we might need, well, I'm gonna put it out there, a conversation around consolidation for efficiency purposes, because we're just, I mean, I don't want to spend more money on courts. Like it's like the need to operate, the complexity of the courts are real. The staffing needs to be done to make sure that the appropriate customer service is there. But the one thing that is clear, that if we were starting over today, the way that we built the district court system across this county, we would not have done. So we're kind of like stuck in where it is today.
If I may. I've been doing some research on the courts and the various avenues of revenue, and one of the key things that I continue to find is the state recognizes that originally the courts were designed to be self-supporting, fines and fees and things like that, and they become an increasingly larger burden on taxpayer dollars, which was not their intent. So I do know that they are making a lot of changes, and they're making changes in how we're doing justice, but they're also trying to make some changes in how they're charging and how they're responding to us. And they've done some things where they're giving us some additional revenues. And I think we just need to be mindful of what we're doing with those additional revenues, because the state, at the state level, they do recognize that I think the quote I saw was the funding of courts is broken. And so they recognize that, and it was never their intent for that to fall on the back of taxpayers. So I know that they're working on it. I don't know how far up, the ladder it's going, but I do know that they recognize it's an issue.
I have a question about that. So we have 4 district courts that are ours. but
Under the
they're
county,
Under the county, but there's 4 more or some other number that are spread out in the county. Farmington has one and so on. Is the conversation that ultimately all of that would become one thing, or are we not there at all?
Now we're gonna get ourselves into trouble.
Well, no,
Yeah, and this is actually where, I think it's actually worthy of a conversation to
I do
understand the difference, because as I understand it, the Oakland County courts were the courts that no one wanted. Like, there was a perception that, the more developed communities had more population, more activity. It actually, at one time, brought in money. These were in the outer areas, less developed areas. And so you need some form of justice, and that's, maybe of the 3 types of courts, you can have a countywide district court, you can have a municipal area district court, or you can have county district courts for portions of your county. There's the 3 different types of courts you have. And we need justice. Some of the frustration I think does come out of is like SCAO, the Supreme Court, like dictates like you must do this. You also don't have to follow all our rules, which is a major pet peeve of mine, yet we're expected to pay the bills. And so I think there's all of that. I don't know, honestly, if it wasn't for the loss of revenue for us, but this is small compared to some of the other district courts, relative percentage of their total operating budget. There is going to be a call to say, we can't do this. Like the local communities just physically will not have the resources to run the basic function of their local district courts. And so, from an efficiency point of view, I think a discussion around consolidation needs to be on it. Now you say that, and then every district court judge will start blowing up my phone. I'm not even saying get rid of the judges. I'm just saying that we've
You
got
don't
to.
have any Christmas
I
cards.
know,
pretty
no
soon.
one's gonna, I guess.
You'll have
Yeah.
one pretty soon.
Certainly don't hang out in speed. But I think it is, I think there's a recognition when you talk to the leadership of not only our district court, but also others, that it's like, we need to have a conversation how to deal with this, because it's not gonna get better.
Okay, let's see, who haven't I called on yet? Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you. I appreciate the idea of maybe some kind of consolidation or doing something to share services. But the only other alternative is, and we talk about it shouldn't be a burden on the taxpayers, but it shouldn't be a revenue source, like policing for profit. I mean, I've seen that so many times, it's crazy, and that's not the way we should be funding our courts, by generating tickets.
Or increasing fees on tickets.
Right.
No, I agree.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's see, I think Commissioner Cavell for a second time, then Commissioner Rahman for a second time, and then we'll take a vote.
Maybe the moment's passed, but just wanted to lift up because Commissioner Smith Charles said this, so it made me think. We're looking through all these different parts of who's on budget, who's under budget and whatever, but I think just making sure we recognize that everything that all the county employees do is essential. Just to say, right, like yes, the deputies, they're heroes and stuff, but like the WRC people make our water clean. Freaking Cheryl and Kim are making sure no one goes to jail for like fraud with the finances. Like everyone at the county is an essential staff member because they're doing something that we need to have done. Like we will soon see, Leanne's gonna tell us about how the health department is working on lead abatement for children and freaking health fairs so that kids get their vaccinations so that we don't have measles kill thousands of children. And also homelessness from Khadija, talking about these convertible coats so that we don't have people freezing to death. So everything everyone does here is super essential. And they also found a way to be in budget, FYI.
Thank you, Commissioner.
It's the BOC.
Commissioner Rahman.
Thank you. I meant to touch on this in my last time when I spoke. Whether it's a carrot or a stick, is there anything to incentivize or dissuade people from missing budget, staying in budget? And then I'm not even picking on the sheriff's office. I'm just wondering generally, as I learn more and more about this process, what's to keep? And I know we were joking about, Leanne earlier, and she can do whatever she wants. But what keeps her within her budget if she didn't want to, hypothetically? And I'm not advocating for this or saying anything, but strictly as a point of discussion.
I think we're in a season of change.
Mm.
And that was weird.
You said the quiet part out loud. I love
Okay,
it.
you can stay.
So, I think what you're gonna start seeing from my team in totality is a little more transparency in some of those areas. We're trying to, one of the things that I did in Ferndale was I really involved the departments in building the budget. And so then there's some skin in the game for them to stick to the budget, like this is what you told me you needed. So, you need to bring that back to, you have to wait till next year.
Would there be room to do like incentives? So hypothetically, if you held back, I don't know, whatever it would be, right? And maybe you hit your budget, you operate within your budget, great, you've met all your goals, here's the extra icing on the cake. I don't know if that,
I've never been involved in an incentive-based budget. It seems incentivizing people to do their job. And maybe that can look different than, just focusing strictly on the budget. Leanne, you're just the one we're picking on today, but, she does what she does, and that's what should be incentivized. The fact that it's in budget is part of her doing what she's supposed to be doing.
Sure.
And I can tell you that as things are coming across my desk now, hey, I need this out of miscellaneous capital outlay. One of the things that Brian and I are talking about is tightening up this budget. And when we tighten up this budget, there's not gonna be a drawer to go to pull this money out of.
With grandma's cookies in the bag.
Yeah, you're gonna have to, if you don't have the money, you're gonna have to figure out another way to do it. And whether that's working, smarter rather than harder, or figuring out some efficiencies in your own area, those are the kind of things that I think when we're talking about incentivizing, those are the things we wanna incentivize, because when they come asking, when we get this tightened up, it's not gonna be there. And you're gonna have to bring it here, you're gonna have to get permission from the board, and that money is gonna have to be, you need that widget? Sorry, Leanne, I need to take these 4 widgets from you so I can give them to this department. Because we've allocated everything that we have. So that's kind of what I envision. It's not gonna happen by June 30.
no, that's fine.
So, I am gonna request some patience, but just know that's the direction that I'm going in. I have the full support of Brian and the leadership team, and this is what we're trying to do. And so things are gonna look different, things are gonna be a little different.
Thank you.
The chair wants to respond to Commissioner.
And I think it's also important to recognize a 24-hour operation that involves particularly a shift that is hard to fill, to get people to work and all those types of things. So while, maybe seem like I piled on, I wanna lift and load, like they're different animals in the sense that that the pressure for overtime legitimately, is created. Overtime in law enforcement exists in every law enforcement agency. But to what Commissioner Rodman was talking earlier is that we should be able to anticipate what that is. And by not anticipating it, we are adopting budgets that are not true, like things that we know. And then I think, capturing it and and how are we paying for it? Then drawing from general fund to do it.
And I think that's a very valid point. We can say this is always like this, but the reality is, why haven't we fixed it? So we can't really say, it's your fault, we haven't fixed it. So once
I
we
see
fix
the
it,
under sheriff and Gaia are both here online, and we've been kind of throwing stuff at you. I just wondered if you have any thoughts in the budgeting process and how you guys are reflected, and the fact that you're the big chunk of overspending, but not, the discussion has said, what would you like to add to the conversation? We don't wanna throw you under the bus, we wanna know what you have to say.
I don't want tickets either.
Thank you hopefully you can hear me. Thank you for the opportunity to respond. Obviously, I'll start with, quite honestly, it's my understanding, like, for example, our holiday overtime budget has not been adjusted since 2008. I don't know how we're expected to meet budget when we've had raises and additional holidays added, but the budget was never adjusted for 16 years. So that's one. Hospital watches, I just did a quick look while everybody was talking. Last year, calendar year, 23,000 hours of hospital watches. We don't control those in any way, shape, or form. If the clinic says they have to go, they go to the hospital. We find 2 deputies that will sit and watch the inmate at the hospital. So that at an overtime rate of $60 an hour, that's almost 1.4 million. There's half your thing right there. And I would imagine if the holiday overtime budget was adjusted properly and set for the last 16 years, again, that we might be under budget. On top of parental leave, all kind of extended leave, short-term disability, long-term disability. Right now, I did a look at that. We have 19 people in the jail and in the courts that are off, and we have 16 people on the road. So the jail has more of that weight. And then for us, we are getting younger in the jail. They are taking advantage of parental leave, and deputies are marrying each other. So it's not just one person that's off for 6 weeks.
All right, I guess we have to stop.
You have one and then you have the other one taking it.
I think that would cover quite a bit of it, but the hospital watches are a huge portion that we cannot control. And we don't have staffing, you know, at least at this point, that where we could send somebody out in straight time for hospital watch. And that's all 3 shifts, 24/7, every day of the week.
Okay, well, thank you. That was very enlightening and entertaining in a weird sort of way.
Everyone's happy there's love in the jail.
That's right, that's right.
Just a quick follow-up. Last comment, I promise. So Under Sheriff Charles, thank you for all of that. You know, to Commissioner Smith Charles's point, I'm disappointed to hear that it's been since 2008 that was last revisited. I think it was the holiday pay. I mean, we're talking 16 years.
I think we
I mean, how has that not been addressed by anybody in 16 years?
Scotch.
Sorry?
I was in Pontiac.
I'm not blaming anybody here at the table. I'm kind of just as an outsider looking in, like, how has it not been, and again, I'm not blaming even your department, but if that was a concern, I'd imagine for the last 16 years, you've been getting under budgeted for that particular category. How has nobody brought that to the table in
Well,
16
no, budgets
years?
are a value statement, so when they say it hasn't been addressed, they could have brought it up, right? When they got 6 new staff this year, those 6 new staff could have been people to relieve people on hospital watch, but they were support clerks and grant writers and stuff. So your budget is your value statement, so him bringing it up now and then Cheryl writing it down means that when they have meetings, they didn't bring it up.
Right, but why wasn't it brought up is my question.
That's for him though, right, not for them.
Understood, and I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, it's just a general comment that, look, at the end of the day, if something isn't discussed for 16 years, I understand why there's a problem.
That's the culture shift Cheryl's talking about.
Understood,
So
yep.
Commissioner Cavell, Commissioner Rahman has the floor.
Got it.
It's not a dialogue.
All right.
I'm sorry, no, that's all I wanted to say, I've had my time, so thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everybody
To defend it.
had their say. Let's prompt the vote.
This is receive and file, right? Recommend, oh no, it's recommend.
It's recommended.
Well, yeah, no,
Recommend.
it's an action.
That's what you want.
I just want, like, there's a bunch of like the technical things. I mean, the guts of this thing is approving reallocation and appropriations of the appropriate business.
Got it.
It's because we were all going back and forth so much.
Okay. Woodward,
Yes.
Lon,
Oh, yes, I put it,
Hoffman.
mine came up.
Yes.
It's not showing up on my end.
Oh, okay,
Because it-
alright,
yeah.
cause mine came up on mine.
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Yeah,
Charles,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Rahman.
Yes.
yeah, 'cause I voted.
8 yeas,
You
0
voted.
nays.
Yeah.
Motion carries. Thank
Thank you very
you.
much. I really appreciate the dialogue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Us too.
Commissioner Martin, can you just clarify that was a motion to adopt the resolution? I think Commissioner Woodward or Chair Woodward clarified that, but just.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
A
yeah.
motion to adopt
Yeah, I
the
saw it on
resolution.
there when I voted,
Yes.
at the yes, recommend to the board.
I heard it and ran in and was
Yeah.
trying to make sure.
This South Line thing, otherwise we'll talk with coverage.
Okay, next item is 8D, sponsorship of the Lyon Township DDA Music on the Grand Volunteer Appreciation Night. Moved by Commissioner
I'll move it.
Weipert and supported by Commissioner Hoffman.
See it with a kite.
All right,
In your hand, I never saw the baseball kite.
so
I
do
don't
we
think
have
anybody from the
anybody here
township,
from the
no, I don't think
township?
anybody from the township
So-
joined today. This is our special projects. It's a ongoing, Lyon Township is really trying to put together, they don't have an official downtown, but they've got their DDA and they have ongoing events, and this is right in line with our special project, I think. They may have written it that it says 5,000 and 5,000, it really costs more. It's about 7,000. The in-kind are churches donate, the townships donate, it covers the deputies. There's lots of volunteers. It's probably an $8,000-9,000 event. And so we're asking for contributions.
Okay, Any comments? Seeing none, let's prompt the vote.
I'm done, Kevin.
While commissioners are voting, I will make sure to let you know that we'll update the item summary sheet based on some new information before it goes to full board, just to articulate that match from the community.
For DDA.
Good.
Okay, thank you. You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. There you go. Next up is item 8E, sponsorship of the Lathrop Village Music Festival, moved by Commissioner Smith Charles, supported by Commissioner Rahman. And I believe we have online someone from Lathrop Village. Mike Green is up there from Lathrop Village. And Adam.
Hi.
Lori, okay.
Yes, this is Adam Laurie.
Hi, Adam. This is Commissioner Charles. Go ahead and give us the breakdown of what you're requesting today.
So this is the second year for the Lathrop Village Music Festival. And last year it was put on in conjunction with the DDA. Sorry, I'm getting a really bad echo right now. I'm going to turn off the volume for a second so I don't have to hear myself talk.
We actually have you on here twice.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the other one is on there. I can't get rid of it, so.
Can we throw?
We can try and get rid of it.
All right, the control room can throw one Adam off. You stay, Adam.
I'm on the second, I'm using the second one on the list.
Okay, they got you.
There you go.
There we go. That's much better, thank you. Okay, so yeah, the Lathrop Village Music Festival, it began last year. It kind of grew out of a need to do something to create some unity in our community after there was an election that had a lot of tension along with it. And so it started with just a group of residents that wanted to do some sort of an event to just invite the community to rally around and come together. And the DDA was also looking to kind of redesign their signature event. And when they knew what we were talking about, we formed a partnership. They approached us. And basically last year in 2 months, we put together the first Lathrop Village Music Festival. We drew somewhere between 500 to 700 people. And it was very, very well received and considered a really great success and kind of a proof of concept. So this year, because we actually have a longer time window, we're really developing this into what we truly want this to be in the long term. And the vision for this festival is to really be a significant summer music event in the Metro Detroit concert season, right? We're not trying to do just another municipal event with the food trucks and the art fair. We really want to showcase the best artists around Detroit and create an event with a culture that represents the best music that Detroit has to offer, right? So getting the top name artists in the area, producing the event with, professional level staging, sound, lighting. And so that's kind of the big vision for this. The DDA in Lathrop Village is the organizing body and is really the benefactor of the event. And so all roads point to the Lathrop Village business community and the DDA as far as our goals of creating exposure for Lathrop Village businesses, exposing the city as a whole to the greater Metro Detroit area and give people a reason to come to Lathrop. There's not a whole lot of things that when you look at Lathrop Village these days that really that draw people's attention. So this is something to make the village visible, to make it relevant and current and attractive to new residents, prospective residents, and really shine a spotlight on the village. So the DDA, when we started working with them last year, right, they put a budget in place for us, which was very generous, which they're doing again this year. But this year we're looking to promote and produce a larger scale event. So we're doing additional fundraising in the private sector, and as well as approaching you guys as this opportunity, as we were made aware that you're also funding events like this. And so one of the things that kind of made coming to you guys a little more pertinent was the LBDDA had an administrative change in April, and the folks that had taken charge of doing the fundraising left and without doing any actual fundraising. So we are moving down the road, and we've got the bulk of our is in hand at this place. We're not 100% there yet, and we're trying to wrap up our fundraising efforts by the end of this week, so we can move forward with promotion and production, knowing what our full budget's going to be. But that's where coming to the county for some assistance with the funding of this event kind of came on our radar. So that's the gist of it. You know, also the last thing I'll say is that we do want to create a culture around this event that really is a premier music event on the summer schedule. And this is not only for the greater Metro Detroit area for attendees, but as far as artists as well. And we really want to attract the best artists. And one of the points that we feel really strongly about is really paying artists what they value themselves at. It's very difficult to make a living as a musician in Metro Detroit when you look at what musicians make for playing a show in this area compared to other metro areas around the country. It's peanuts compared to what you can get playing in Chicago or Houston or LA or, I mean, pick a city, right? It's tough in Detroit. So we want to do something where we show artists that financial respect and say, we want to pay you what you're worth, right? And so in doing that, you know, that also creates a need for a more significant budget. And, you know, I think we feel like we can afford it if we hit our target budget. And that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle. So you guys have any questions? Anything I can answer for you?
Thank you, Mr. Laurie. I appreciate your point about making sure the musicians you hire, we're gonna properly compensate. That matters to me. You're correct. We are going into the local communities at the recommendation of the commissioners, looking at projects and saying we want to do some level of funding to help communities highlight their individuality and what's special about their community, and we're doing it in the big and small communities all across the county. And we are very much encouraging partnerships. We don't like to just hand a community money and that's all, you know, Oakland County's the only funder. So I appreciate also that we are just a piece of what you're trying to do. You will have other partners doing as part of this whole thing. So with that, I will open the questions to anybody on the commission. If anybody has anything they want to ask, or Commissioner Charles, do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm sure this will be articulated later if this were to pass, Adam and Mike, but we love a good bit of signage. You know, we like the folks to know Oakland County participated in making the thing happen. And that's just a little bit of a way to promote, again, just our communities and the fact that the county is actively investing in things that sometimes people wouldn't expect. But other than that, thank you for getting the application in, and you know, things go forward, then we'll all see you there later this summer.
And the board staff can help you with the proper signage and communications that we need. So you can touch base with.
Excellent. And, you know, I was kind of curious about this as well, because I wasn't, you know, when we're approaching a private business about a sponsorship, there's sponsorship levels and what the value they get for particular tiers of contributions. I wasn't sure if the county was wanting recognition or not. We still do have openings for a title sponsor on the event. There are other parties considering it, but that have not committed. So however you guys would want exposure and whatever level of funding that you would want to do, we certainly can accommodate making sure that the county is prominently featured on any kind of promotional materials, branding, marketing stuff. along with all of our other sponsors as well.
Well, we'll let you coordinate more closely with Commissioner Charles as to where our contribution will fall in your category, so she's the one you'll want to talk to. Okay,
Very good.
well, with that, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
While commissioners are voting, I will remind you that following full board approval, this does go to purchasing, not necessarily corp counsel in this case, but purchasing provides us those standards to make sure that we are prominently promoted for the dollar amount and similarly in all contracts or agreements.
Very good.
Phil?
Commissioner Whip?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. The proposal has been approved, so thank you very much for coming today, and thank you, Commissioner Charles, for bringing this forward.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So that completes our department recommendations. Next up, we have item 9, the Public Health and Safety Committee recommendations. Item 9A is acceptance from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for the 2024 Marine Safety Program. Moved by Commissioner Long, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. Who's presenting this? Looks like the sheriff's here.
Good afternoon. So the first one is for the annual marine safety acceptance. This year we're getting $173,500. It's an increase of $4,900 from our 2003 award. $141,100 of it is the federal portion, which requires no match, and the remaining $32,500 is the state portion, which requires a 25% match that is already in our budget.
Okay, good. Great. Anybody, any questions?
But
Commissioner?
But I watched it yesterday and watched it yesterday in the committee meetings, okay, but it's less than the 600,000 you asked for, right?
Absolutely, yes. So, yeah, we always ask for, when the application came through the committees earlier this year, we asked for the full 676,191, and, we always get less than we ask for.
We have a lot of lakes.
Okay.
We need more.
We need more, yes. Okay, let's prompt the vote.
Lakes, Michigan.
I mean, yes.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Next is the item B, 9B, acceptance from the Michigan State Police for the 2024 Paul Coverdell Forensic Sciences Improvement Program and a funding transfer request. I need a motion, Commissioner Hoffman, supported by Commissioner Rahman.
Okay, this is our 2024 Coverdell grant acceptance in the amount of $76,960. This covers a portion of one full-time equivalent forensic lab investigator position, and the remaining goes to opioid test kits. So the funding transfer comes from our forensic lab fee funds. So when the position, during the quarterly forecast, depending on how much the position has charged to that point, we transfer that from the lab fee funds to cover it.
Anybody have any questions? Let's prompt the vote, please.
I know there's one in Converse now, but I just wonder how people find out where they are.
Mark?
Yes.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we have item 9C, fiscal year 2024 budget amendment to address public health, literacy, and homelessness concerns in Oakland County. Moved by Commissioner Charles, supported by Commissioner Cavell.
I feel like you all already know all about it, so what we have in front of you is requesting some funding for a couple of projects that are coming down the line. One of them, we were talking about lead. So there was the law passed in January, legislation around childhood EBLs, elevated blood levels. And so in the state of Michigan, they used to recognize 10. CDC actually recognizes 3.5. So state of Michigan Michigan actually passed another legislation that said all children under the age of 6 must be tested for lead at least once by the time they're 6. And so they've put that on the pediatricians to make sure this happens. However, not everyone goes and sees a pediatrician, right? Not everyone has access to someone. But what we do see is we see people in our WIC clinic. So currently we do what we call just a finger prick, right? Where we do an initial blood lead level test. What ends up happening until we get a confirmatory test for a capillary test, for them to go in and get a confirmatory test, we do not follow up and do any kind of home testing with our nurses or case management or investigation with our environmental health staff. So what we want to do is we want to purchase a piece of equipment that will allow us to test directly in our public health lab that we have here. So when a child is in for WIC, they'll get the initial prick, and if they are shown to have high lead levels, then we can immediately do that testing, have it in our lab and get those results back quickly, and then be able to push our public health nurses out into the homes and even our EH inspectors out into their homes to do the investigation. This allows us to quickly establish and identify what the item is in the home, right, either with the nurse or the sanitarian, and be able to identify that and reduce those levels in the homes quickly. So currently, we have to have that parent go back and do a secondary test. And we're seeing a significant number of parents that aren't going back. I get it, right? You're busy, you get that test, you know there's something there, but you just don't get back in. So we're hoping this will really increase the number of people that get that confirmatory test. The other thing, as I talked about, this 3.5, so we're reducing the level that we're considered elevated, is we are expecting that our sanitarians are going to be out in more homes, right? We currently do between 14 and 20 investigations right now at 10 microliters. So when we get to 3.5, obviously we expect that to triple. But we only have one XRF machine that goes out into the field right now. So we want to purchase another XRF machine so when we are in the field, it's identifying lead paint, right, spices. It provides that context when we're in the field. So we're asking to purchase another one of those. The other thing we are asking is to do a pilot in Children's Village around a literacy program for the children at Children's Village. So currently, right, they're in school, but during summer, right, there are times when they're off. And so Children's Village is looking to do a pilot literacy program. They're going to put out an RFP to bring someone in-house to be able to educate the kids while they're in off break. So it'll be a pilot. And I don't know if Mediha wants to add anything in a second, but we can do that if you have questions around it. And then the other piece that we're asking for is around our homeless healthcare initiatives. And so we're asking for $300,000 for our shelter capacity. So this is, as we all know, our shelters are full. Very rarely is there a bed that's released, and sometimes when there's one, there's 3 to 6 people, if not more, sitting and waiting for that bed. Sometimes sitting at the door asking for that bed. And so you all did allocate some money prior this year, and so we have some data here that we can go over so you can see how quickly that basically went out the door and was used. And then we're also asking for $150,000 to buy convertible sleeping bags. So it is a coat, right, that can convert into a sleeping bag for those that are homeless. And we're going to use our teams together, so health and housing coming together using our staff that are in the field, our harm reduction staff and our homeless healthcare nurses that are out every day will be distributing those. And in those will be resources as well, so that people can easily navigate to, that we can help with. And then the last thing we want to do is a health fair. So people have forgotten that the health division do things other than just COVID. And so we're seeing a significant reduction in vaccines in kids right now. So we really want to get out there and basically shout from the rooftops what we do in Health and Human Services. So this isn't just about health. We're going to bring housing together and just provide a big health fair. So we're looking to do 2. We're going to do one in Pontiac So we're looking to work in one of the Pontiac parks. Obviously, we're gonna partner with our Parks Department, but also Pontiac Parks. And then we're also gonna look to do one at Catalpa Oaks in looking late July, early August. And so we're gonna do some really cool things around Vision to Learn, right? People maybe having access to free glasses. There's a great partnership that we have that can come in and provide that. So that is the additional funding that we're asking for. So I don't know if you want Khadijah to maybe give you a little bit of the data around the emergency shelter program really quick.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. I want to just thank the commissioners for their support in allocating some funding when we came and requested for the coldest months. We wanted to make sure that we could offer some emergency shelter expansion and resources to get us through. As you all know, we're working on continuously building out our housing stock and trying to find a long-term solution. But in the interim, we want to make sure that we can plan and prepare for serving those who are most vulnerable. So we were able to, through March, put 129 people in emergency shelter situations. That was part of that expansion funding that was provided back in December. So I thank you for that. And that got us through that polar vortex of January and February. And that was really important because we know that some of the current data that came out this year, 31% of about the 1,200 people who were identifying as homeless did self-identify that they had at least one disability. So we know we're reaching vulnerable populations and that this is really necessary as we continue to expand shelter capacity. So just a little data on that, and wanted to once again thank you for your support getting us through that winter month. And if there's any questions, happy to answer those.
Thank you. Commissioner Long, have a
Okay.
question?
Thank you. So are all these amendments to the budget, is the total 910,000?
That's correct.
Okay, total. And then it says Schedule A. I can't push up a Schedule A. So where are we amending where are these funds coming from?
I think it's general fund, correct? I'll bring.
I tried to find Schedule A on my thing. I don't have it. Does anyone else have it? I don't have it.
It's the second document.
Yeah, I tried. I can't, yeah, I won't open.
It's coming from non-departmental.
Non-departmental? Okay, thank you. I just couldn't pop open Schedule A, so I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Cavell?
Well, since you guys are here, can you tell us more about, will these will this be like the answer to homelessness and lead paint and childhood?
I wish we could say it is, yes. No,
So then
these are pilots,
Yeah.
right? So as we look at these, again, we are expecting that 3.5 level is going to increase the number of inspections that we have. And so right now, our sanitarians that do this work, right, and our nurses are at capacity, so we know we expect to come back and probably need some additional positions, but we are gonna monitor and utilize what we have now. It does take somebody that does lead testing and abatement. These reviews have to take a very rigorous course around lead. So we currently have 3 staff trained that can do that are gonna share this workload. Again, feeling this a priority, right, in the department. I don't think, we know this isn't gonna solve homelessness.
Wish I could say it solved homelessness,
Yeah.
but really it's part of the short-term solutions, as I was kind of mentioning that we'll build on those long-term. We know we need to expand permanent shelter capacity, have more affordable housing options in stock. So in the interim, we do need to make sure we're providing for those who are most vulnerable during, like I said, those cold winter months and getting people off the street. So kind of a twofold.
Okay,
Thank you.
I just have, on the subject of homelessness in general, I live on the west side of the county, the very southwest corner. And when I encounter folks in distress, there's really trying to find them resources or connect them somehow in a practical way. Pontiac is, takes me an hour to drive here in my car, right? Southfield is not close. So I just would encourage your department to think about what we should be doing on the west side of the county, whether it's partnering with Livingston or Washtenaw or whomever. But every time I'm trying to talk to someone who's homeless and offer them services and it happens more often than you would think in a city like mine. that's supposed to be, economically healthy. So I'm just encouraging you to think about the west side of the county as well, because I struggle to connect people out there, so. Anybody else? With that, let's prompt the vote. Did you vote?
Come on.
I did.
Yes.
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 You can't vote for me.
Markham?
I mean, yes.
And Cavell?
Yes.
Yes, 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
No, refresh.
All right.
It's because I went to
Refresh your computers, everybody.
April.
All right, item 10, the audit subcommittee recommendation. Item 10A, fiscal year 2024 through fiscal year 2028 independent annual audit services. Moved by Commissioner Rahman, supported by Commissioner Charles.
Go for it, sir.
Yeah,
Good
I'll
job.
let the chair start.
And then,
You're gonna answer my
obviously,
questions.
our
And we
chair and
have our
vice chair and
Finance people
other
here.
people can weigh in. So one of our chief, or the chief responsibility that we have, in addition to passing the budget, is a requirement to facilitate the auditing of all of our books and everything. And so we went through a RFP process. This is a contract with the board, so this is our audit. This is the audit that we submit to the state and all the other ancillary required reports. Went through a process. We had a number of bids come forward. And I'm happy to report, and it wasn't just, the board, commissioners, Commissioner Rahman, Commissioner Markham, myself, as well as representative from Fiscal Services, Mr. Leffler and his team, and the Treasurer's Office was present to evaluate. Fiscal Services spends a lot of time working with these auditors, so it's important to have their feedback. Treasurer, obviously, because that's where the books and the numbers are all held, and landed on Raymond, which is a change. We've been with Plan Moran for more than 20 years, and we went through this process. And what I can say that I have full confidence in this firm to be able to meet our needs. This first year is going to take the learning curve to how to work with each other, and I think it's also a good opportunity for this board to really lean in a little bit more to fulfill our statutory and constitutional responsibility, but have full confidence in their ability to be able to perform this function. And it is also cheaper, so we actually are going to be saving money on this. Since the selection of the firm and working with purchasing, and I'll let Mr. Leffler weigh in. The proposal before you is a 5-year. Normally, we contract for 3, and then options for 2 1-year extensions. This is a 5-year agreement. We have to do this regardless, and so locking in year 5 prices today is a win-win for everybody. And so we still have termination for convenience language in it. So if it doesn't work out, nothing binds us to stay in 5 years, but we lock in 5 years of pricing, which really lends itself to budgeting, forecasting, and planning in the future. But they do a lion's share of auditing across the state of Michigan for other counties, and they're very strong active participants with the Michigan Association of Counties. So if you go to those conferences, you will see their stuff, and look forward to strengthening our relationship with them going forward, and working with particularly this committee and the audit subcommittee as we undergo this process.
Thank you, Mr. Woodward. Commissioner Long, you had a question?
Yes, I do, but Commissioner Woodward answered many of them in that nice presentation. So I know, it was good. So I knew we had Plant Moran a long time. So when their contract were 3-year contracts, you said, did we go out for RFP every 3 years, or did we just keep going with Plant Moran? Maybe we don't want this on record, but I just don't remember.
Oh, no, we can.
Okay, I don't remember.
So, many of us have been on the board a long time.
Right, that's why I knew we had Plant Moran.
So
here.
there were decisions, I was a strong proponent for almost 20 years to go a different direction. I lost every one of those. The first opportunity to do it under a different time was right smack dab in the middle of COVID. And so a decision was made, and our past finance chair made the recommendation, and I supported it. It's like, let's not change horses right now. The world's on fire. And so and so we extended that, I mean, that was another extension, and so, and we kept continuing with it. And so in some cases, I think I can't remember exactly how many times, some we sole sourced it. I mean, we already had an established relationship, and the board, I mean, we can sole source, I mean, as long as the board, I mean, outside our normal procurement process, if we vote, I mean, as a board and everything. And the decision was, I mean, over the years to stay that direction. I'd actually come into this process with an open mind, and frankly, if price isn't the only thing, we were very fortunate to have a lot of very qualified folks that bid on this. It just happened that this is lower, and frankly, to have the Oakland County accountant to be the auditing firm for Oakland County, which is the prized, best managed county, I would argue, in the country, is a gold star you get to wear. And Raymond came with their game. Made it clear that we want you, we will do anything to get you, we will work with you, and I fully expect that they will participate in finance committee, sub-audit committee, in whatever capacity is necessary. I'm gonna push, man, this is for the finance committee specifically, if there are certain areas we wanna go deeper in, let's identify that in the first hand so that they have that and they can help support us with that. So that's the backstory.
That's it, but then where are they out of Michigan? I mean, where are they,
Saginaw.
Saginaw, okay, and then do you know, like, what other counties do they do? Do you have any idea? Is that a lot?
It was in the packet. They
It's in the packet, okay.
Most.
I know they
Okay.
do Kent and Ingham.
Okay.
And they do
So a lot.
the big ones.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, good, thank you, that's fine. All right, thank you.
I would just like to add, having sat through that whole process and through it 3 years ago when I was not the chair of this committee, it was very clear to me when they all came in that not only was Raymond really wanting it, they were highly prepared. They brought each individual that came had a specific aspect of the audit that they were gonna be responsible for. And I mean, those people were clearly motivated and highly qualified, I felt. And honestly, I think they gave the best presentation. I felt they were not only equivalent to other organizations in the room, but for this evaluation process, I thought there was a clear winner. I did myself, so I'm confident in our selection. And they have an office in Farmington Hills, I know.
Oh, good, okay.
Commissioner Rahman.
Yeah, I was just gonna echo the same sentiment. It's obviously the first time I sat through this process, going through an RFP, and I was pleasantly surprised at how nicely it went. You know, we sat through, we interviewed all these companies, did our due diligence, so it's not, you know, a decision that's taken lightly or we just throw a dart at the wall. I think it was irrespective of price. I think they were head and shoulders above everybody, even before we looked at the price. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention, is that price was sort of the icing on our cake. That, hey, look, they're the best company for us and they're the best price. It was a perfect marriage, so.
One question, and I can't believe that it didn't, is that relative, selecting this firm? We also provide auditing services to the Arts Authority, the Art Authority does auditing for the Art Authority, the Zoo Authority similarly. This audit is just for our county services. I mean, is there, I wonder, I mean, I don't think purchasing's on staff, but
they're right there.
But if we can look at, look into seeing what would it cost to have them to take on those duties as well. Obviously, those entities would have to do so, but they're required by law to do their auditing. And historically, whoever our auditor was, it's pretty simple. It's money in, money out to one entity, so.
First in, first out.
First in, first out.
Okay. Let's prompt the
That's your
vote.
refrigerator.
Yes.
This is the second time this year. Woodward,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
I mean, yes, mine didn't pop up.
probably
Yeah, none
nobody
of it,
said
I don't think
Whitebird,
ours,
Yes.
none of us did.
Markham,
Yes.
Wait till outside and be warm.
Smith Charles.
Yeah.
Cavell,
Yes.
Brahman.
Yes.
You have 8 yeas, 0
I need
nays.
to remember to bring.
All right,
sweater.
motion carries. Last item is number 11. It's a closed session.
We got people leaving.
Item 11A, strategy discussion of Taylor versus Oakland County et
Oh, now I got
al.
the
and
audit.
related cases. I need a motion.
Move to go into
Commissioner
closed session.
Woodward, supported by Commissioner Hoffman, to go into closed session.
I can vote for you.
Do we vote? Yes, we need to vote.
Yes, that's right. Please prompt the vote.
If Phil has to go.
Yeah, we still have a quorum. Oh, mine went up there and went
One, two,
away before I
yes.
even put my,
Yes. Yes.
it was so fast, I couldn't do trigger finger.
Woodward,
And Woodward will stay.
Yes.
thank you. Woodward,
Or
Yes.
don't vote on it if you're going.
To go to closed
Oh,
session.
yes, yeah. But you're not even gonna be.
I can vote to go in closed session.
You can if you want, but you're.
Whitebird,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Smith Charles.
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Brahman.
Yes.
Okay.
We always have a quorum, we're
You have
good.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
So are you staying or going?
I would like to
is that
go,
going
but
off?
if you need me,
No, I think we have a quorum.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
okay.
1,
I do
2,
too.
3,
Phil's
4, 5,
walking out
6.
though.
We have a
Yeah.
quorum.
You leave it.
Yeah, six,
Even if Phil's
six
not
out of
here, we have a
8.
quorum.
Don't be trying to come back in.
Bon voyage.
Even if we had 5, we'd be good. Even without 8, we'd
Oh, he did. He told me
Okay,
raise my
well-
hand and
Oh.
he'd do it.
Oh.
Perfect. On air, Mike Live.
All right.
Were we on air?
Not yet.
Yeah.
No, I mean, how do you see you? We're supposed to be closer.
Maybe he wasn't recording.
It wasn't, well, he wasn't recording, no.
No, he
Just-
wasn't
just, I
recording.
mean, like, that just flipped on,
So we gotta be careful.
he might, the cameras might be working.
Yeah.
Oh, there it goes. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just don't wanna be in court for open meetings, closed
All
meetings,
right,
you know.
we are officially out of closed session and I will entertain a motion. Commissioner Rahman?
So I'll make the motion for us to proceed as discussed within closed session.
Supported by
I'll support it.
Commissioner
Okay.
Hoffman.
Yeah, he's like sees.
Okay. Then go
Glory
ahead and
day.
prompt the vote.
Mine didn't come up. I have to vote. Mine didn't come out, Tracy.
Okay,
Yes.
Woodward.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Matt Hoffman.
Yeah, his work.
Wayford's gone. Markham. You have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, motion carries. That is the last item on our agenda today, except for public comment. Does anybody have any public comment they wanna make before this committee? Seeing none, is there any other business? Hearing none, I call this meeting adjourned.
All right,
Good
good.
job.
Good.